The thing about fear is it's always there, lurking. That gnawing feeling that your worst nightmares are right around the corner, ready to pounce when you least expect it. It's not the monsters or the dark that keep you up. It's the stuff you can't control. Like the fear that you're becoming just like the person you swore you'd never be. Or the panic that no matter how much you fight, your life will slip through your fingers just like it did for the ones who came before you. And sometimes, no matter how hard you run, you're just stuck. That's the fear that hit me when Marty showed up with that invitation. It was one of those dead nights, nothing going on, boredom creeping in like a disease. Jake sat slouched in his chair, cracking open another beer. While Nina flipped through the channels, even Marty was restless, which said a lot. He thrived on chaos. "So I heard about this freak show in town," Marty said, grinning like an idiot. "Something about nightmares you can't wake up from." Jake snorted. "Sounds like a load of crap." "Yeah," Marty leaned in, eyes gleaming. "You want to bet? It's called Lucius Freak Show of the Mind. Only opens at night. They say once you're in, you don't get out till you face your fears." Nina sighed, rolling her eyes, but Jake saw it. That flicker of interest. She was always trying to play it cool, the good girl trying not to let her rebellious streak show. But deep down, she craved excitement. Just like him. "Let's check it out," Marty pushed. "What's the worst that could happen?" We should have known the second we pulled up. The freak show was in this busted-up lot on the edge of town, the kind of place that screamed, "You're making a mistake." Rusty carnival lights flickered above a worn-out poster. The words "Face your deepest fears" smeared across it in peeling paint. Lucius's grinning face stared back at them, glowing eyes and a twisted smile. "Sketchy as hell," Jake muttered, but it was too late. Marty was already halfway through the entrance. Nina grabbed his arm. "Jake, maybe we shouldn't..." "We'll be fine," he said, forcing a grin. Inside, though, his chest was tight. He didn't like it. Not one bit. The second we stepped inside, the door slammed shut behind us. I'm talking no way out. We walked down this narrow hallway into a big-ass tent, the kind you'd see at some messed-up circus. But the crowd? They weren't right. Just these blank faces sitting in mismatched chairs, all staring straight ahead, like they'd been frozen in time. Not blinking, not moving. It was like walking into a nightmare. "Man, they're really laying it on thick with the spooky act," Marty laughed, his cocky grin still hanging on. But Jake could feel something crawling under his skin, that tension in the air, the kind that made it hard to breathe. Nina squeezed his hand, her grip cold and tight. She'd gone pale, her eyes darting around the room. Then the lights dimmed, and the air got thick, like we were breathing in something wrong. Lucius stepped out, dressed in all black, with glowing eyes that seemed to pierce straight through you. His smile, too wide, like he knew all your secrets. "Welcome," Lucius said, his voice smooth, like silk over a blade. "Tonight, we reveal the fears you hide in your souls." The first act hit like a punch to the gut. A shadowy figure rose on stage, hulking, towering, and then it morphed. Into him, into Jake's old man. He reeked of booze, his eyes bloodshot, stumbling forward like he used to after a night of drinking. The insults, the rage, it all came rushing back. Jake's throat locked up, his body freezing as the figure started spewing the same hateful crap his father always did. Then the shadow shifted again, turning into Jake, bottle in hand, snarling the same words his dad used to spit at him. Jake's knees almost buckled. Was this what he was afraid of? Turning into the one person he despised most. Hell yeah, it was. He couldn't breathe, couldn't think, as the figure loomed over him, suffocating him under the weight of it all. Nina's scream snapped him out of it. Her fear hit next. Suddenly she was trapped, back in that house, her mother's voice shrieking from the other side of the door, telling her what to do, how to live, just like when she was a kid. The walls of the house began closing in, tighter and tighter, until Nina was clawing at the wallpaper, desperate to get out, but the door handle disappeared. There was no escape. No matter how hard she fought, she was trapped, just like her mother had been. Marty's fear was the strangest. One minute he was laughing, the next, dead silent. A spotlight hit him, and he was suddenly standing in the middle of a vast desert, completely alone. No thrill, no action, just emptiness. Marty screamed, running in circles, looking for something, anything, but there was nothing. The horror on his face was almost comical, but the desperation, that was real. The thought of eternal boredom, that was Marty's personal hell. Lucius watched us, grinning, his voice dripping with satisfaction. You came looking for thrills, didn't you? But what you didn't realize is you brought your nightmares with you. Jake's blood ran cold. This wasn't just some freaky show. Lucius was pulling their deepest fears right out of their minds, twisting them into something real, something they couldn't run from. Panicked, Jake pushed Nina and Marty toward the exit, but Lucius was there, blocking the way. The show's not over yet, he sneered. Jake charged at him, fists swinging, but his hand passed right through Lucius like he wasn't even real. You can't fight what's inside you, Lucius taunted. You'll never escape it. The only way out was to face it. Jake turned back to the stage, forced himself to look at the shadow of his father. He wasn't going to be like him. He wasn't. Slowly, the figure started to dissolve, fading back into the dark. Nina stopped fighting the walls, accepting that she controlled her life now. Marty, shaking like a leaf, finally sat down, accepting the silence around him. One by one, the nightmares disappeared. The tent emptied out and we stood there, breathing heavy, thinking it was over. We stepped outside back into the cold night air. Relief washed over me for a second until I looked around. We weren't outside, we were back in the tent, and that crowd, the one with the blank faces, it was us. Sitting in those chairs, staring lifelessly ahead, Lucius's voice echoed around us, cold and sharp. You faced your fears, but now you belong to them. We screamed, but nobody heard. We were part of the freak show now. Forever. Story 2. I should have known better than to stop. The road ahead was dead straight, the kind where the horizon just stretches on, taunting you with how small you are out here in the middle of nowhere. My gut said, keep driving. But Sam, she spotted those damn lights. Look, Dad, a carnival. Her voice cut through the silence of the car, excitement jumping out of her like she hadn't seen anything cool in years. The thing is, we all got those fears we don't talk about, right? Mine's failure. Irrelevance. I can feel it creeping in like a shadow every time I look in the mirror and see this broken man, where a fighter used to stand. I ain't dumb. I know I'm not winning anymore, and maybe that's why I pulled over. We stepped out into the stale desert air, the kind that sticks to your skin. Lisa looked uneasy, fingers twitching at her side, probably thinking about the last time we stopped somewhere we shouldn't have. She's always afraid of losing me, of me drifting off like her brother did. Overdose. Lost to his own demons. But she stays. I guess love makes you do dumb things. See the impossible. Live your dreams. The barker's voice boomed out of nowhere, sharp like nails on a chalkboard. His face was a shadow under the brim of his hat, but I could feel his eyes on me, on all of us. Sam was hooked. Please, Dad, can we go in? I couldn't say no, even though everything in me screamed to turn around. The lights pulled us in, hypnotic like we were already trapped the second we got close. Inside the carnival, it wasn't the tacky setup you'd expect. No cotton candy stands or rigged games. It was different. Wrong. The barker stood there grinning like the devil himself. Welcome, he said. This is a place where your dreams come true. That smile didn't sit right with me, but I wasn't about to show fear. Not in front of Sam. You'll see things here, he continued. Feel things you've long forgotten. I was about to call bullshit when Sam darted off, her eyes wide. Lisa shot me a look, anxiety bubbling up. She hates when I act impulsive. But what choice did I have? We followed Sam. We wandered through the hall of mirrors, the ones you see at every carnival, but this was different. The reflection staring back at me wasn't the man I'd been seeing for years. No, it was me, the real me. The boxer, the fighter, young, strong, undefeated. My fists clenched, and I felt that old spark, that hunger to win. It was like touching a memory. But when I reached out, the mirror shattered. Every damn time. "You can still be great, Ben," the Barker's voice echoed. Somewhere behind me, that old temptation crept back. Could I go back to that life? Could I be the man I was again? The Barker's words rattled in my brain. Meanwhile, Sam found herself in front of this carousel, lights spinning like it had a pulse. And on one of the horses, her mom, just sitting there, smiling like she used to before the accident. Sam's face lit up, hope pouring out of her. "Mom!" she cried, and I swear my heart broke just watching. She ran, trying to catch up, but the carousel never stopped. Her mom stayed just out of reach, always one step ahead. Lisa, God bless her, wandered into her own nightmare. She ended up in this room, walls plastered with faces. Faces of people she'd lost. Her brother, friends she'd seen drift away, all calling out her name. She kept reaching out, desperate to hold on to them. But every time she got close, they vanished like smoke. "They're gone," the Barker whispered to her, slithering up out of nowhere. "But you can keep them here forever if you just stay." She didn't want to lose them again. I saw it in her eyes, that terror of being alone. But she didn't belong here. None of us did. We tried to leave, but the damn carnival was a maze. Every path we took circled us back to the same place, like the whole thing was alive, feeding off us. The Barker showed up again, offering us deals like we were at some sick auction. "Stay, and you'll have everything you want. Leave, and your lives will never be the same." I almost gave in. I could taste that old life, being a champion, hearing the crowds roar my name. My fists itched to fight again, but Sam's voice cut through the haze. She looked at me, eyes sharp. "Dad, it's not real. None of this is." Sam saw through it. She figured out the carousel wasn't bringing her mom back. It was just using her grief to keep her trapped. Tears streamed down her face as she stepped back, away from the fake promise, and I knew I couldn't abandon her, not like this. We regrouped, Lisa still shaking from her encounter with ghosts of the past but determined. We made a run for it, but the Barker blocked our way. "You'll never escape," he hissed, the walls closing in, suffocating us with our fears. But this time, we fought back. I smashed the mirror that showed me my old self, shattering the lie once and for all. Sam stepped off the carousel, turning her back on the false hope. And Lisa? She walked away from the shadows of her brother and friends, choosing us, the ones still alive. We thought we were free. The Barker's shrieks echoed behind us as we sprinted toward the exit. We broke through the gates, breathing hard, hearts racing, feeling like we'd won. But as we drove away, the lights of the carnival faded into the distance, and I glanced in the rearview mirror. The Barker was sitting in the back seat, smiling,